Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program The Law of the People and Governance here on Spectrum Television. My name is Rachel David White. Well, this is a program that talks about trending political issues and social issues in Nigeria. Today, we will be doing a little bit of continuation from what we did yesterday, but we'll also bring up other major trending issues in Nigeria. Well, former President Olusegun Obasanjo yesterday had said that the Western democracy has failed in Africa. And again, he has voiced his criticism of the recent judgment of Nigerian judges on electoral disputes, expressing concern over the authorities vested in a few judges to actually overturn decisions made by millions of voters during elections. Obasanjo labeled the powers concentrated in the hands of a small group of judges as totally unacceptable and called for a re-evaluation of the system. Speaking at a high-level consultation on rethinking Western liberal democracy in Africa at the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library in Abeokuta, Ogun State, where he also criticized the democracy, Western democracy rather, Obasanjo faulted what he referred to as cathedral pronouncement by judges. He emphasized the need to address a situation where a handful of judges could nullify the decisions of millions of voters. In his words, he says he believes whatever forms of democracy we have, or whatever system of government we have, 3 or 4 men in a judiciary should not be able to overturn the decisions of millions that have voted. He said it is totally unacceptable that millions of votes, maybe 10 million on one side, maybe 9 million on the other side. Then they have 5 people sitting down, 3 of them agree, 2 disagree, and of course you get to come up and make a cathedral pronouncement that cannot be changed. Well, he believes that should not be accepted. Obasanjo also expressed uncertainty about the solution to the issues, but stressed the importance of addressing it. He questioned the implication of calling for a new election when millions had already voted in the previous one. So he personally feels strongly about it, and it does not matter what they say about the judiciary. But in fact, according to him, he says only 5 people or 7 will sit down. If they are 5, 3 may agree, 2 may not agree, and the decision of 3 will be final. And all that has been done comes to the decision of 3 or decision of 4. According to him, it is unacceptable. Well, don't forget that yesterday we talked about the sack of the Plateau State governor and Mutwang and other governors as well. So according to him, it is a total, it's totally unacceptable and not proper at all. Well, let's move away from that. President Olusegun Obasanjo has also recalled how a political party, the People's Democratic Party, he belonged in the 1998 lost a local government election in Ogun State because he rejected plans to bribe the police and personnel of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Well, Obasanjo said party leaders had told him that there should be money allocated for the police and INEC, saying he rejected the proposal on the belief that INEC officials and policemen are government workers earning monthly salaries. Well, the former president spoke in Abeokuta, I already said, on Monday at a high-level consultation he organized on rethinking Western liberal democracy in Africa. Well, he also had told politicians, according to him and predecessors at the debates, that he is not always comfortable with the first Nigerian factor when discussing democracy and other issues affecting development. According to him, he came across the Nigerian factor slang when the nation held the first local government election and his party lost because politicians said he refused to take cognizance of the Nigerian factor while planning for the election. While the octogenarian emphasized that the Western liberal democracy being practiced in Africa has not really taken human nature and the African situation into full account. Well, while saying it is time to be realistic, well, the Balogun of Owu, according to how he's been called, said a hungry person will sell his vote for just 1,000 naira. Well, away from that, Senator Abba Moro of the People's Democratic Party, PDP from Benue, has emerged as the new minority leader of the Nigerian Senate. Well, similarly, Senator Sita Ango from the PDP representing Enugu West Senatorial District has been appointed as the new minority whip as well. As Senator Gotula Pabio, the Senate President, formally informed the Nigerian Senate about the recent changes in minority leadership today. This appointment came in the wake of removal of Senator Simon Mwatkong from Plateau, who previously held the position of the minority leader, and Senator Darlington Wokocha of the Labour Party from Abia, who served as the minority whip by the appeal court. Well, the Court of Appeals decision led to the displacement of Senator Mwatkong and Senator Wokocha from their leadership positions within the Senate's minority caucus. So with the Senate minority reshuffle, Senator Abba Moro and, of course, Senator Osita Angu have new positions. They have now been elevated to key positions within the minority leadership. Quickly, away from that, President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Monica Dogan Mensem, has pleaded with politicians to stop putting the judiciary under undue pressure while determining political matters. Well, she made the appeal in her goodwill message at the 5th Criminal Law Review Conference organized by the Rule of Law Development Foundation in Abuja yesterday. Dongban Mensem, while rationalizing relocation of highly sensitive political cases to Abuja, said that the decision was to ensure a safe environment where justice could decide cases without fear or favor. According to her, for entrenchment of the rule of law, it is expedient for justice to be delivered without interference, intimidation, manipulation, or fear, stressing that the environment must be conducive for such to be achieved, actually. And away from that, another report we'll be looking at is that, again, the faction of the Rivers State House of Assembly took control of the Assembly complex, conducting a plenary session attended by over 20 members loyal to the embattled Speaker, Martin Amaule. Well, during the sitting, the lawmakers discussed the suspension of the strike by Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, the PASAN, and a directive for the police to investigate the fire incident in the chamber on October 29th. These deliberations also touch on whether to reopen the impeachment proceedings against Governor Simi Nalayi Fubara, the previous cause of the political tension in the state. The police patrol vans were positioned at the entrance of the assembly complex, and restrictions on vehicular and human movement were imposed during the session. However, these restrictions have been lifted at Moscow Road. While the move follows recent developments, including the factional speaker Edison Ehie alleging an assassination attempt on his life on Sunday night, adding to the ongoing political turmoil in the state. Well, we'll take a look at other reports when we come right back from the short break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. I told you it was going to be a short break, so we're right back from the break. And of course, another report we'll be looking at today on the program. Former President Muhammadu Buhari says approving the Naira redesign policy was a way to ensure his integrity became unquestionable. Well, has it really left his integrity unquestionable? That's a question. Well, the immediate past president spoke in an interview with, of course, the Nigerian Television Authority. His first since handing over the reins of the nation's leadership to President Bola Tinubu in May. With Buhari's backing, the central bank announced it plans to redesign and circulate a new series of free banknotes out of the existing 8 in October 2022. The redesigned 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes were due for circulation on December 15, 2022, while the pre-existing notes would remain legal tender until January 31st, 2023. On November 23, Buhari unveiled the redesigned naira notes earlier than scheduled. Now, the move triggered nationwide chaos. Cash became scarce before and during the general elections. I spent a whole lot of money trying to buy money. I mean, we all did. While speaking on the naira redesign policy in the interview, Buhari said the move was imperative to check those who had slashed or stashed ill-gotten money. He also spoke about how technology made him win the 2015 presidential polls after previous futile attempts. Buhari also said he's not sure he achieved all he had set out to achieve as Nigeria's leader from 2015 to 2023. He also said, however, he does not miss being out of office. Interesting. Well, it doesn't miss being out of office. I think there's something our president needs to talk about more. Well, moving away from that right now, I will still touch the story where we had about Governor Alex Otti of Abia State yesterday. Well, there have been several reactions, including one from Rino Omokri, who is a popular activist and, of course, the former aide of the former president, Goodluck Jonathan. Well, he has actually called out Alex Otti and, of course, had also talked about the president as well. But let's even look at these. So many people in reaction to this report have said, well, Abia State never had anything. So Alex Otti is on the right track. While so many people have said this is not what we need at this time. Don't forget that yesterday I told you that Governor Alex Otti of Abia State spent a whopping 927 million within 3 months on refreshment and meals, settlement of honorarium allowances, welfare packages for the eggheads. A copy of the state budget performance report seen by, of course, some reporters and, of course, over the media. Now, the report titled Abia State Third Quarterly July to September 2023 Budget Performance was posted on the state government's website. In the record, the Otti-led government spent 223 million plus on refreshment, while 305 million plus, keep to the numbers or the figures, was spent on honorarium and sitting allowances for government officials within July and September. The government also claimed it spent 397 million plus on welfare packages. Also, the document revealed that 737 million plus was spent to buy motor vehicles. Now, the quantity and those the vehicles were bought for were never stated. Meanwhile, 362 million plus was spent on the Abia government to purchase trucks, and another 400 plus was used for the purchase of buses. Also in the document, the government claimed it spent 252.4 million. It was used to run the deputy governor's office in 3 months. Now, the report showed that only 25 million naira was spent by the government on repair of public schools in the state. Now, this is as many of the public primary and secondary schools in Abia State are described as eyesore. I already talked about that yesterday. Now, according to multiple reports, most public secondary and primary schools, buildings, and facilities across the 17 local government areas of Abia State were aging, decaying, fading away because government are not paying proper attention. A sizable number of school buildings in the state were said to be virtually dilapidated with leaking roofs, broken furniture, doors and windows, some completely abandoned with tons of garbage, human excreta, and overgrown shops around them. Now, this is another major thing that we need to look at today. Well, let me just give us a brief story, a brief trend before we get to bring our guests and we'll talk about some of these issues properly. Well, the Director of General Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria, DCON, Major General Anyedi Edet, in his interview, has commended President Bola Tinubu for giving the federal government-owned military industry necessary support to meet its mandate of producing military materials. Well, speaking about the contributions of the corporation in the fight against insurgency, among other issues. And of course, talking about that, he says DCON is not a standalone place. They have associations called the Defense Industry Association of Nigeria. Under that corporation, they have about 20 industries and they are linked to so many other industries, and that is what they do. And of course, talking about the legacy that they are going to leave behind at DCON, they said it is not just their legacy, but the legacy of DCON to see producing, enjoying, and sustainable equipment for the Nigerian Army. Well, producing an equipment for the Nigerian Army sounds like a good thing in the ears of Nigerians. We'll also take a look at a little bit of this report before we shut down for today. Meanwhile, we'll just go on a short break. When we come right back, we'll discuss properly. So do stay tuned and feel free to get ready to join the conversation. We're coming right back.
Allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Welcome back. It's still the program, The Law of the People and Governance here on Spectrum Television. And of course, we're ready to talk about the trending issues for today properly. And already I told you we are going to begin from where we stopped yesterday. So we are going to be talking to Citizen Olu for today. I mean, he joined us yesterday. So I guess he's already here. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad.
Okay, I like the fact you said not too bad, so definitely not too good.
I mean, we're in a cost of living crisis.
Okay.
The world is turning upside down.
Okay, so welcome for today. I'd like us to, I just want to take you back. You know, yesterday we were talking about something striking, and that had to do with the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. Well, still talking about the statement he made about Western democracy failing in Africa. I mean, we didn't get to design or name it. So according to him, it has failed in Africa. Well, he has also voiced his criticism of the recent judgments by Nigerian judges on electoral dispute, and also he expresses concern over the authority vested on few judges to actually get to overturn decisions made by millions of voters during elections. What do you feel about that? I mean, I remember that you strongly criticized him yesterday, but from this point of view, I want to get your view as well.
Okay, so I think my criticism of him yesterday was actually quite warranted, because you cannot, if you want to come to equity and justice, you have to come with clean hands. And it's like the devil telling you that I'm a really good person, just listen to what I'm saying, but forget about all the other devilish things I did. So for me, if we're being objective and we want to be patriotic Nigerians, that doesn't work for me. So first of all, I think if we look at, let's cast our minds back to 2019, when APC lost Zamfara State. They lost the governorship, State House of Assembly, and all of the other people elected under that platform. And everybody accepted that judgment from the courts. In fact, justice seemed to be working around that period of time. So a similar thing that happened in Zamfara State is actually the basis of what has happened now in Plateau State. And in fact, I think if you listen to the governor of Plateau, Matwan, if you listen to him, he said clearly that nobody bribed the judges. The judges were simply enforcing the law as existing, because the courts themselves had given two different court orders about the different factions of the PDP in Plateau State. So therefore, you cannot, if you don't have a constitutionally constituted body within the PDP to run your primaries, you cannot then simply submit a name to INEC for the governorship elections. There are laws. There's an electoral act that we all have to follow.
But those are pre-election matters, No,
You could say they're pre-election matters. However, there were different factions. The courts had expressly made a judgment that they should go and do an actual primary. The courts had spoken. So if you read the judgment of the courts, you would find that the courts were simply enforcing the law in existence. So PDP was happy to be a beneficiary in Zamfara State, because their candidate was able to win the governorship there via the courts. So why are you now upset in Plateau State when a similar set of circumstances have now been proven in court, and therefore the court has found in the favor of the APC? Because we have to remember that if we go back also to Bayelsa State, where David Leon won the governorship in that state, it was on the eve of his swearing in that the PDP was able to get a court judgment to stop him from being the governor of the state by virtue of a problem with the names or the arrangement of names on the certificate of the deputy governor under the APC. And that was how PDP under Diri was able to win Bayelsa State.
Let
So
me
when
let
we
me
look
pause
at
and talk
these,
about
yeah, go
something.
on.
Okay,
Yeah.
now I think it's not just you know, how do I put it? You don't just, it's not one-sided. Okay, now
Okay.
if the APC wins in court, is always, or you know, the courts finally says, oh, the you know, validates or authenticates their victory. It's a goal. The judges are doing well. The judiciary system is working. But if they fail in court and it's other way around, there is something. The judges are partial. So it's not like it's just the PDP. I think it's whatever party it favors. Now, my concern in this statement the former president made is the fact that millions of voters voted, and a three-man panel, a five-man panel, has to sit down to overturn, you know, what millions of voters actually did. Now, in that five-man panel, two could disagree, and three agree, and so that three stands. Don't
I mean,
also
that is
forget.
the way the courts work.
Okay,
That
go
is the
ahead.
way the courts work. So it works on a majority decision. So even if you have one or two dissenting voices, their voices are in a minority. That is, you know, so we need to take away the emotions and sentiments and look at the case based on law. There are two things in here. There are two things here, if you permit me for a moment. There are two things here. Is the court applying the law as in existence within what is written in the Electoral Act? The question to that is yes. Now, on the second hand, can we say the courts have actually given a judgment that actually speaks to equity in terms of the fact that while some parts of the judicial system say these are pre-election matters, another court will say this is not a pre-election matter. So there is a confusion in terms of the precedents that are being set by these different courts. So the question is, do we need to make new laws to make it sacrosanct within our constitution or within the Electoral Act that judgments by different courts need to take precedence in other courts in order to make sure we have law that is balanced, fair, and just to everybody? So perhaps there's a need to change the law and perhaps also re-engage INEC itself, because I think some of these problems actually stem from INEC. Because why would you put somebody's name onto the governorship election for that particular state if there are court orders that have mandated that particular party to conduct a primary or have given judgments which are in conflict with what is actually happening in that party? Why is INEC not actually doing its job before we get to that stage where we now have to go and litigate this in court? So I think INEC also has a role to play here. So I think also the laws governing or regulating the way INEC actually accepts names for these candidates or for these parties needs to be updated. Because if we had this situation sorted out before the election, then we won't be here. We won't be discussing this on your program today.
Of course. So you are also of, you know, this, you're in support of a re-evaluation of the system. Now, talking about INEC, the president had also, former president also talked about the Nigerian factor. Now, he has cited a time, a moment where, of course, his local government failed elections because of the Nigerian factor. By Nigerian factor, he says he was asked to bribe the policemen and the INEC officials, which he refused to. And of course, at the end of the day, that local government failed elections.
Okay, so again, I'll go back slightly to what I said in the beginning. If you want to come to this issue of equity, justice, and fairness, you need to come with clean hands.
Okay.
You cannot come with dirty hands. So it is quite rich for the former president who actually rigged out 5 out of 6 Alliance for Democracy governors in the Southwest in 2003 to suddenly turn around and say they never used, someone brought him a proposal to use police and INEC for elections and pay them money, and he refused. If that's the case, I wonder what he would say about whether or not he refused money to those who rigged the 2003 and 2007 elections. I mean, you look at different parts of this country when he was president, and you can see the overbearing might of President Olusegun Obasanjo in many elections in this country. In fact, I remember this, that in Ibadan, for example, we had the Adedibu, who was a very powerful man who was controlling politics within the PDP in Oyo State, for example. And when there was an issue in Oyo State, the whole president of a country, which was Olusegun Obasanjo, went to Oyo State and told the people that were having a fight with this man over certain illegalities that this is their father or something to that effect, and they need to respect him. There was no rule of law that he didn't enforce the rule of law in that particular instance or in that issue. I mean, this is the same person who, in 2007, when we had the election of Yaradua, God bless his memory, rest in peace, he rigged massively. There were states where they produced votes that were in excess, multiple excesses of the number of voters registered to that particular polling unit. And this was all around the entire country. And international organizations actually called this out. And Yaradua, when he was elected, admitted that his election was fraught with massive amounts of fraud. And who was the president? Is it not the same man who is telling you that they brought him a proposal and he refused it for rigging? But he actually rigged the election. So this doesn't make any sense. Look, he was president for 8 years. If he had all these ideas, why did he not put them in place? You can't, I know they say, hindsight is 20/20, after the fact. But in his case, he was also the military president between 1976 and 1979. I'm sure you remember this. So he handed over to Shehu Shagari of the NPN. And we also know in that election, there was also rigging. And in fact, that particular election ended up at the Supreme Court, where they did the magic of 12 2/3, where they invented a new type of mathematics of 2/3 of 2/3 of, what was it, 2/3 of 2/3 or something of the votes in Kano to count for his mandatory votes he has to win in each state. So look, for me, I just look at him when he speaks and actually pity the man, because he has made himself, as far as I'm concerned, someone who had the opportunity to change this nation in terms of electoral laws, in terms of governance and democracy.
Yeah.
But he didn't take that opportunity.
The founding fathers.
He never took that opportunity. And in fact, almost wanted to overturn the constitution to run for a third term. So I'm not going to take lessons from President Olusegun Obasanjo. As old as he is, I respect him because of his age, and he's an elder in our society. But that doesn't mean he has all the wisdom of the world. His time has gone, his time has passed. So I think it's time for new faces, fresh voices from the youth, from other people who are not taking part in corrupt governance in the past, to actually prefer the solutions that will build a foundation that would allow us to have the kind of democracy that is.
If I want to hold you by the words where you say have not taken part in corrupt practices or governments in the past, I don't think there's any new, politician or leader in our society today who hasn't, in one way or the other, been part of, the former or pre-former or whatever administration way back. Well, let's not talk about that right now. Let's move quickly away from that so we can touch another issue. While former President Muhammadu Buhari has made a statement that is causing controversy, he says, talking about the redesigning of the Naira, which we all know started during his administration, somewhere October, November last year, and he approved it. He says approving the Naira redesign policy was a way to ensure his integrity became unquestionable. The question is, as that, or did that really leave his integrity unquestionable, you know?
I mean, I think first of all, we have to understand the mindset of the man who became president. You know, he was a military president who took over power in a military coup in 1983 and was subsequently removed in 1985 by Ibrahim Babangida. So for me, that's where I start. So the question is, was he a Democrat to start with? And I would say he wasn't a Democrat to start with. However, he seemed to have good intentions for the nation. I mean, there's no denying that. You had things like war against indiscipline, for example, in 83, 84, you know, in order to clean up our public spaces, get Nigerians to actually be more orderly in the way in which they conducted themselves. I mean, these were good policies. Now, let's fast forward. He tried to run for elections 3 times and he lost. He eventually succeeded in 2015 and had a massive number of policy initiatives which he said he was going to commit to the nation and implement to improve our lives. Now, for me, I think when we talk about his integrity, I think if we're looking at him as an individual, I would say that I don't see a person who was corrupt, in the sense that I don't think you could prove a case of where he actually stole public money from the public purse. I mean, he seems to be a very simple man who prefers the, you know, the more mundane things in life. Is not a materialistic individual. I mean, how many times have you seen him lodging in Transcorp Hilton Hotel in Abuja, for example?
Let me say, let me cut in something. Yeah, so many people have accused his administration of being the most corrupt administration, and I think twice or 3 times the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has actually said he inherited a whole lot of, I mean, debts and other bad stuff from his administration. So insecurity during his administration was, I mean, the highest. Now, things became tougher for Nigerians during his administration. Now, he may not have stole well, like you said, you know, directly, but his administration has been accused, I mean, under his watch, of so many things happening, going wrong in Nigeria.
So again, I go back slightly to my previous point. If we're talking about the man, Muhammadu Buhari, is he a corrupt individual as an individual?
Oh, yeah.
I would say no, as an individual. However, governance and being in government is not about the individual, it's about the collective. So therefore, as the head of government, if there are issues of corruption and issues of nepotism within the government, then the buck stops with our president, because he was elected to lead. He was elected to give us policies that will tackle corruption. Now, were there issues of corruption in the previous government? 100%. And there's absolutely no one that can deny corruption didn't happen, contract inflation, round tripping of Forex in the CBN, where you had certain favored people and banks, in fact, that were involved in this nefarious activity. In fact, you had people like Emefiele himself, who was, you know, the head of the CBN, who was giving out a contract of 6.7 billion naira to buy cars for him to compete at the APC primaries. Where did he get the money from? So these are all things that happened under his watch. However, there are some other good things that happened, which we have to be able to take a balance between the good and the bad. But the bad does exist. And for me personally, I think the new government that we have has to be able to use the instruments of law and the instruments of state to go after those people who actually pilfered money from our public purse. Because if you do not tackle corruption at its source and you allow people to get away with that corruption, then you are setting a bad precedent for the future. So for me, was there corruption? Yes. Should it have been tackled in a more holistic way? Yes, it should have. Was it? I would say not necessarily. So on corruption, I would even score them a 2 out of 10.
Okay. All right, I don't want to dwell on that because I want us to touch almost all the issues we have to touch for today. I mean, I don't expect you here tomorrow. Well, one last issue. Well, there has been reports circulating on the state government, Abia State government's website. It's titled Abia State Third Quarter, July to September 2023 Budget Performance. Well, in that report, the Oti-led government spent a whole lot of money, I think over 927 plus billion for different stuffs. 200 plus was for refreshment and meals. 300 plus was spent on honorarium and sitting allowances for government officials. And in all of these, because of time, I can't go talking about all the segments, but 25 million naira only, I mean, the lowest was spent for refurbishing, schools, education. Meanwhile, this is a state where education is reported, school structures is rated, I would say 0, according to reports. But what do you have to say about this? It's just a few minutes.
For me, first of all, we need to understand who Alex Oti is. Alex Oti is a known quantity within Nigeria. So if you only heard about Alex Oti in the 2023 elections, then I would say you never did your research. He's part and parcel of the establishment. So some of the things we're seeing that he's doing in governance, they don't come as a surprise, because some people painted him as a messiah for Abians because he's part of the obedient movement, but they forget he moved from the APC to the LP party because he couldn't get the ticket under APC. That is how he ended up in LP. So it's not as though this individual had some moral quality to govern that particular state. But let's get into this. So they budgeted 632 million naira for food, meals for the whole year for 2023, the revised budget from what was there before. Now, in the year-to-date performance for the third quarter, they say they did 232 million naira. Now, there's something missing here, which other people maybe perhaps don't like mathematics. But in that third quarter, you did 232, which means if we multiply that by 4, you multiply 232 by 4, you get about what's that? 918
even more than the proposed.
918 million naira for the full 12 months, for 4 quarters. So if they're running at 232 million already, by the end of this year, they would have crossed over 900 million naira for food and refreshments and meals and whatever else they're eating. Because I don't know whether they're eating French cheese or some French bread or something.
I want to go on and on and on again, but I've just been notified that I have no much time for now.
Okay, so basically for me, I think it's very important to hold the government to account in the states to ensure that when they spend money, they're spending money and looking at it for value for money. Every single naira, you should be making sure you're spending it efficiently and effectively, and you can see what that money is being spent on. It's a disgrace to spend almost over 900 million naira on meals and refreshment, and then 25 million naira in a quarter on schools. So that shows you that we have a problem of governance. And this is not only Abia State.
Yeah.
It's not just Abia State. This is across our 36 states and the FCT, so that people don't think people are picking on Abia State because it's an obedient or LP state. This is a problem for all states. But I think we have to commend those who are actually getting the data out on what they're spending and looking at budget performance and to see whether or not they're overspending, underspending, and whether they're giving value for our naira and our kobos. So for me, I think we have more work to do in holding them to account. But I think this is a very good sign, because imagine 4 years ago, would you have seen this level of scrutiny of some of the state government budgets? No, you wouldn't. So I think there's work to do, and I think pressure needs to be put on the likes of Governor Alex Oti to improve transparency and value for money when spending taxpayers' money.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Citizen Olu. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Same to you. Thank you very much.
All right, this is where we close the curtains for today, but don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTVLive.ng. Catch you again tomorrow. My name is Rachel David White. Good evening.